Andrew, can you believe it's 30 years since the 95 championship?
No, I cannot, but it does make me feel a fraction old, mate. But so many things happened that year that were amazing that I remember them like yesterday. So it was an amazing year for the club. We were sort of picked to the upper echelon pre-season, but we ended up winning the pre-season tournament. We then went on, had a very average start, and I think if not mistaken, we were about 500, 4-4, 5-5 maybe. We just lost to Canberra, and Adrian Hurley was not happy, and neither were we. So he said, "You guys go and sit in the locker room," and it's in the AIS arena, it's this concrete thing, very cold. So we, icing ankles and we're freezing our ass off. But then we had, I reckon, one of the best, and it was probably the start because we did it a couple of times since, and I know other Wildcat teams have done it since. But we had a legit heart-to-heart. We put everything on the table about what we were unhappy about, what we saw, what we felt, who was doing good things, who was doing bad things. We had, and it went for, better part of an hour, if not maybe a fraction longer. And we got everything on the table. And that lifted the weight off everybody because now we had real clarity. We had kind of a recommitment and it was genuine and you could feel it because the next game, I think we won 11 straight after that. Finished on top. We ended up beating, I think, Melbourne in the semis and then we got to the grand final. And we were pretty confident going in, but North Melbourne beat us at home at the Entertainment Centre and shocked us. We were legitimately in shock. We thought game one would be ours. So then we had to travel to North Melbourne and we get to the game and in the rafters, they've already set up all their celebrations. And that hit a chord with us. I know it did with the coach, did with me too, going, nah, how dare you? And we ended up winning that game. And then when we got back home, so it's the first time and I think only time I've ever done it, but Adrian Hurley insisted that we stayed together as a group and we stayed in a hotel in the city while we were at a home game. And we went through our normal practice and game routine as if we were on the road because what we had on the road, that clarity, that absolute sense of purpose in game two, we carried over to game three and then we were on our home turf and the crowd went nuts. We went, the first time I really looked at the scoreboard, we were up 21-4 or something like that. James Crawford didn't miss a shot. He was playing inspired basketball. Grace was doing his thing. Fish was doing his thing. Trahair was doing his thing. We had great contributions from Stewie and Kat. We were humming like a V8 redlining, and North Melbourne had no answers. They tried everything. Poor old Brett Brown, who's a good friend of mine, he had no answers for us, and it was one of the best feelings ever because we literally just blew them off the floor.
I feel like you dealt with a lot of adversity throughout the season, from the slow start to the season. You're obviously down one game against North Melbourne. I think in the quarterfinals you were down a game as well.
Probably to the Tigers maybe, I think. We were able to overcome that kind of adversity because we had that collective will. And, it's rare when you get teams that are able to lock in for such extended periods of time with focus and commitment on defence and then be able to hum on offence as well. We had that, we felt like that. We always knew that, the bounce of the ball or you miss a few shots or whatever, we knew it would come around because we were a good team. And defensively, we were exceptional in those final series.
And to win the grand final MVP, what is that?
Yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. It was, I think I had a pretty reasonable series. I can't remember what I averaged, maybe 20-something, 22 or 3, or I don't know. But yeah, holding up the MVP was special. It was great, and I felt like, for what we'd gone through the year and where we got to at the end there, staring at an elimination in a 2-0 sweep in the face, and then collectively, coming through with a win was, I was happy I was happy to win the championship than I was to win the MVP, but it was special. And yeah, it sits in my office and at home.
And the shaved heads, I've got to ask about that.
Crazy. I don't know. But we knew, and this is another, really important, and not that it was necessarily a motivating factor, but it was an interesting addition, is the winner of the NBL that year went to play in the McDonald's Open in London. So we were super focused about that. But when we won the game, we had to fly out the next morning at 7 a.m. So we couldn't have much of a celebration. We actually went, I think, to maybe the Leaderville Hotel for about 30 minutes and had a beer and went, right, we're not doing this. Let's go home, get ready to go and play. We knew we'd be seeded into the Rockets for our first game, Houston Rockets. So we were taking it seriously. But before that, at the end of the game, someone walked in with clippers, and I can't remember who did it first, and then it caught fire. We're like, why not? And we looked like idiots, but it's the worst haircut I reckon I've ever had. I struggle at the best of times with that, but that was it was fun at the end of the day, and it's one of those things you do as a team to continue that bond. I know that the Cats in finals now, they don't shave, which is good. I love those little traditions that good teams have.
And you were quite a young captain as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
Was that even your first year as captain?
No, that was my third.
Third, yeah.
So I took over from Mike Ellis. He had retired, and I was the second youngest on the team. But the gentleman at the time who was our deputy chair, Warren Jones, and our chairman was Kerry Stokes. He made the appointment. I was probably fair to say. They obviously saw something in me that maybe I hadn't seen in myself. They gave me a piece of paper that said, these are the expectations. And that was a real changing point in my life too, because I was, young, footloose and fancy free at the time. And then all of a sudden I had the responsibility to captain, the Perth Wildcats. And so I took that honour very seriously, and hopefully I was a good captain.
Did it make you grow up even quicker?
It did, yeah. And mature really quickly. But I was blessed. On that team, we had Ricky Grace, Scott Fisher, James Crawford. All could have been a captain, easily, right? All great leaders in their own right. But collectively, we had essentially a leadership group, and no major decisions for the team was made without the consent of those three other guys. So as much as I was the captain, I felt like there was a collegiate responsibility had by those other guys as well. And we're all on the same page, with recruiting. That guy's a noddy. We're not taking him. Bad character fit for us. He might be able to score 1 million points, but he's not going to fit our group. So we were very much, around character and chemistry of people that we allowed to come and play here.
You mentioned those three names. They're obviously up hanging in the RAC arena.
And so they should.
A long time alongside yourself. It's a special team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nearly half of the...
All of them Hall of Famers too.
Yeah.
So, that group, I was, like I said, very, very lucky to play with those guys who were committed professionally, played hard every single day, played through injuries. There's no minutes management, and if you're a bit sick, too bad, mate. You had to show up. I go to war with those guys every day of the week.
Speaking with Adrian, he thought there could have been a potential dynasty, but injuries were pretty cruel. Can you talk us, I guess, through those couple of years after that? There was obviously a couple of really serious injuries.
Yeah, we had too many. It was just unfortunate. As things happen, we lost Catalini to Adelaide the following year. And I was really, really disappointed with that, tried to get it reversed because I was playing in Europe at the time and came back and they said, Cat's going to sign with Adelaide. And I went, what? I really saw Catalini coming through and being part of that group for a long term. But full credit to Martin, he's done exceptionally well and, went and did all the things that he did. So that was a little bit, difficult. Fisher hurts his knee. From time to time, the way he professionally rehabbed that to get it back, he was sensational. He was such a diligent person about, the details, and that's why he's so successful. Is he did the extra yards. We'd come home from a road trip, double road trip. He'd go to the gym and shoot. He showed us how to be more professional, in fact, and it was great to be around as a young fella.
And a nice nod to the championship and the team this weekend, the 30-year anniversary.
Yeah,
wearing the jerseys.
That's great, and that I love the fact that this club has such a proud history. The fact that they recognise those that have gone before, that set the culture for this club and set the platform for success. There's a reason that there's 12,000 people in the venue. It has a great reputation. We are a great club, and blessed and lucky and honoured to be part of some of that success on the way through, and to have a small bit of the shaping of that, of the culture, etc., and what's acceptable and what's not as a Wildcat. I feel like that 95 group was very much in a big architect of that.
It still feels like you're quite invested. You're around practice quite a bit. You're pretty much at every. I take
a vested interest. I like the club so much I became the owner at one point. But what I love seeing about what the club is, the level that it's aspiring towards, is watching guys take their craft seriously, commit to the team, commit to the community. I always felt, when I was playing, I was the luckiest guy in the world. I had a job I loved, and in order to, who was paying my wages? The people that were coming to see us in the stand. So, when you engage with the community, we were making sure always that we were engaging in the right way with the right kind of attitude. You can never be grumpy. Young kids get inspired by, brushes with that. It happened to me as a kid, So I was at the very first game when Mike Ellis come tumbling down the baseline, and his commitment, diving on the floor, inspired me. And I'm lucky enough to be his teammate. He's the funniest teammate I've ever had. But so many good memories in that space, and it was, it's a lot easier to play too when you win. And when we got the knowledge of how to win, we leveraged it.
Perfect. Thanks, mate. Hopefully the boys do you guys proud on Friday night.
I hope they do too. Hopefully we turned a corner.